Sahanavavatu Sahanau bhunaktu Sahaviryam karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma vidvishavahai. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Okay, welcome back. Thank you very much for accommodating a short time change for this week. I had a scheduled conflict, so really appreciate all of you are coming here at this time. So we will continue our discussion on Atma Bodha. Today is our 7th session. So we covered up to verse 14. Especially last week, what we covered was about the Sharira Traya, the three bodies, the physical body, the subtle body, and the causal body. And also the last verse, which was verse 14, we have seen that Shankaracharya is making the observation that the Atma is different, yourself is different from all these bodies. So we will pick up the thread from there and we will continue to see 3 more verses today, because this is wonderful book. As we explained, almost every verse has one brilliant example. Most of the stock examples we use in Vedanta comes from Atma Bodha. So the next few verses, you will see brilliant similes. So let's get into that. But prior to that, any questions on the verses we covered so far? We covered up to verse 14. A short description means physical body, means the duration or longevity wise it is limited. It is maximum up to 120 days. And the existence of the physical body is known to me and it is tangible to others also. So what happens is the body will born at the time of our physical birth and the body will die at the end of our death. And this body is subjected to change, 6-fold modification. So that is the characteristics of the physical body. Whereas the subtle body, it is known to me and it has components like the mind, the 5 sense organs, and the 10 sense organs, the mind, intellect, ego, and also the pancha pranas. And it contains the power of all the sense perception. Means we differentiated between what is a subtle power versus a physical power with different examples. So that is subtle body. And the longevity of the subtle body is more because the beginning of the subtle body is the beginning of the universe or the manifestation of the universe. And it can potentially continue till the unmanifestation of the universe. Only exception is if you get self-realization or moksha. And at the end of the cycle, the subtle body will be dismantled and it will be stored in a seed form, which is known as karma sharira. So one subtle body can have multiple physical body. One subtle body can have multiple physical body during one cycle. But at the end of the cycle, the subtle body will be dismantled. So the maximum duration of the subtle body is from the beginning of the manifestation of the universe to the end of the manifestation. But what happens? The universe will manifest again in the next cycle. So in that undifferentiated period or in that unmanifested period, what happens? The jiva will be staying in the karma sharira, which is like a seed form. At the beginning of the next cycle, a subtle body will be created based upon the karma sharira, and that is what is karma sharira. And the physical body is made up of the physical matter, and the subtle body is made of the subtle matter. And the Karana Sharira is made up of something called Avidya or Mula Prakriti. So this was the essence of what we discussed the other day. And finally, Shankaracharya said that if you try to understand who you are neither the physical body, nor the subtle body, or the causal body. You are something different from all these three. It is true that you have all these things at certain point of time, but they are gadgets given to you. So there is a difference between I have a car versus me, the car. So that's the difference between physical body, subtle body, and causal body and the Atma. So without physical body, subtle body, the Atma cannot manifest itself in the universe. But that doesn't mean that Atma is the physical body. So we are typically what happens, we believe that we are the physical body. Sometimes we identify with the subtle body. When I feel I'm angry, who is angry? The subtle body, the mind is angry. So I take the attributes of the physical body and the subtle body as me, rather saying that I am angry, or meaning rather saying that I have anger in me. I always believe that I am angry. That is the difference. So that difference is explained in the next verse, which is verse 15. So let's see the verse 15. Anu, would you mind chanting the verse 15? But before that, Rajesh ji, we are recording, right? Yes, I can see that it is recording. So Anu, could you please chant?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Panchakoshaadiyogena tattanmaya iva sthitah shuddhatma neelavastradi yogena sphatiko yatha.
Excellent chanting, Anu. This is brilliant tune. Excellent chanting. Okay. So Panchakoshadi Yogena. The word come here is yoga. So yoga typically brings the picture of yogasana. But here the word yoga means association or connection or union. So the problem here is, in the previous words Shankarach said, you are not the physical body, you are not the subtle body, you are not the causal body. But that's not my experience. I feel that I'm angry. I feel that means I am hurt. I feel that I'm 5 inch or means 6 foot tall. I feel that I am dark or I am fair. I feel that I am old. What exactly is old? It is my body is old. What exactly is young? It is my body is young. What is dark? It is my body is dark. But my experience is exactly the other way, because I feel that I am short or I am tall, I am fair, I am dark, I am sad, I am angry, I am happy. So why this happens if you are not the physical body or subtle body? So Shankaracharya tried to explain that in verse 15 with a brilliant simile. So he tells Panchakosha Adi Yogena. So he tells in association or in the presence of these 5 sheets or Panchakosha, 5 koshas. So again, Panchakosha is another model used by Vedanta. So there are 2 models in Vedanta. One is called Shariratraya and the other one is called Panchakosha. We have seen what exactly is Shariratraya in the previous session. So depending up means the body has 3 different bodies. Any jiva has 3 different bodies. But another dicing and slicing of an individual is based upon this Panchakosha model. Panchakosha model is something called functional classification of the human system. So it is called Annamaya, which is the physical aspect of the body. Annamaya, Anna means food, Maya means modification. So that which obtained by the modification of the food, that is the physical body. And the second kosha is known as Pranamaya kosha. Pranamaya kosha is the life force in our system. Manomaya kosha is the mind, the emotional functions of our system. Vijnanamaya kosha is the intellectual functions of our system. Anandamaya kosha means the absence of all these three, or the real experience of the self, which is again another layer. So what Shankaracharya tells is that when the Atma is connected with this Panchakosha and Shariratraya, what happens? Tan maya ivastitaha. It seems, it appears to acquire the attributes of these Panchakosha and the Shariratraya. So that's what Shankaracharya tells. Like, you are not the body, but when you are in a close proximity with the body, when you are connected with the body so much, what happens? The attributes of the body is superimposed in you. So that is what is called Athyasa in the Vedanta system. So there is a technical term in Vedanta called Athyasa. It means that when you are in close proximity of another object, you appears to have the attribute of the other object. And he gives a brilliant example in this particular context. So he tells, Shuddhatma Neelavarnad, Neelavastradi. So what happens is, even though the Atma is pure, but when a crystal, a clear crystal, is placed near a blue cloth, what happens to the color of the crystal? Look at that picture. So the crystal is pure, white, but when it is in the proximity of a blue cloth, the blueness of the cloth is attributed or superimposed on the the crystal. This is what is called Athyasa. So brilliant example. Look at the best example you can give is given by Shankaracharya. So again, what happens is, you are not the body, you are not the soul, you are Atma. But I always believe that I am the body, I am the soul. Why? Shankaracharya gives a brilliant example. It is the theory of superimposition. Anyunya Athyasa. This is a very famous technical term used in Vedanta. To illustrate that, he gives a brilliant example. The example is of a crystal and a cloth. When the cloth, he said, Neela means the color blue. When the crystal is within the proximity of a blue cloth, what happens? The blueness is superimposed on a pure white crystal, or a crystal without any color. This is the essence of this verse. Beautiful verse, right? This is such a brilliant example. Means I cannot think any better example for this Athyasa, even in the modern times. Any comments or questions? Okay. So we will continue. So the verse meaning is this: in its identification with the Panchakosha, the pure, immaculate Atman appears to have borrowed the qualities upon, means its qualities upon itself. Its quality means the 5 sheets qualities on the self. As in the case of a crystal, which appears blue or yellow, depending upon the color of the cloth in its vicinity. This is beautiful. So that is what is explained. Panchakoshadi yogena means because of the association of the Panchakosha, Tantan maya ivastitaha. Atma appears to have the attributes of anatma. So Atma means the self, anatma means that which is not self. That which is not self is the body, mind, and everything. So the Atma appears to borrow the attributes of anatma. So the real seems to be endowed with the property of the unreal. That's the problem. Whatever is the nature of the body, I take as myself. This problem is known as Adhyasa in Vedanta. So Neelavastradi yogena spatiko yatala. Just like a crystal appears to be blue when it is in the vicinity of a blue cloth, like that, Atma appears to have the attribute of the body and the mind. But really speaking, Atma is different. This is what the essence of this verse. So Panchakosha. Panchakosha means this is the standard diagram of the Panchakosha. Thanks to Swami Tadatmananda, this diagram is his drawing. So Annamaya Kosha is there, Pranamaya Kosha is there, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha. And Atma means even though the Atma is shown as limited, really speaking, Atma is all pervading. It is difficult to show that in the color. So that's what it is. And this Panchakosha and the Shariratraya are one of the most popular examples or methodologies in Vedanta. Any questions? Okay, so let's move to the next verse. Anu, could you please chant?
वपुस्तुषार्थिभिः कोशैः युक्तं युक्त्यावघाततः आत्मानम् अन्तरं शुद्धं विविञ्च्या तण्डुलं यथा.
Another beautiful verse. So now Shankaracharya is telling, when you look at yourself, what you see as yourself is not yourself, because of the close proximity or vicinity with the Shariratraya or the Panchakosha. Their attributes seems to be superimposed on the Atma. So when you look at yourself, right, just like that crystal, when you look at that crystal from a distance, you think that the color of the crystal is blue. So your judgment, your action and reaction, and your assessment, everything will be based on the fact that that crystal is blue. That's exactly what is the problem. What you see yours as yourself is not correct the vision. So how do you correct that vision? You have to correct that vision by reason and analysis and self-enquiry. That's what Shankaracharya is telling. So how can you identify, means how can you see that the crystal is not blue? One example is somebody has to tell you that, okay, that crystal is not blue, it is without any color. So when somebody tells you initially, you won't even believe. You may say that, no, that's not my experience. I trust my experience. What you're saying is wrong. That would be my first answer. But when I go, means, okay, for example, then what I do is I just take his words as a faith or a belief, go there, try to contemplate upon this. He said, no, what happens is the crystal appears to be blue because of the blue cloth on which the crystal is placed. So when I contemplate upon that, when I analyze that, this sounds logical to me. Yes, the blueness of the crystal is borrowed from the cloth. So then what can I do? I can go and just remove the crystal and hold it in my hand. And when I look it from the other side, I realize that it is not blue. So there are 3 steps, right? Somebody has to tell me that this is not correct and this is the actual reality is. Then I need to contemplate upon that and make sure that I'm connecting the dots and intellectually convinced on the fact that the crystal is not blue. And then what I have to do, I have to internalize that by doing some experiment or some practice. So this is what the entire self-enquiry is. So Shankaracharya here gives a beautiful example, another beautiful example. Just like the rice kernels covered by husk, means typically what happens, the rice kernels covered by the husk. And for you to get the rice and use it, first you have to remove that husk. You have to remove that husk through some process. So just like that, in your vision, your true Atma is covered with the husk, the kernel of, or the true Atma is covered with the husk of this superimposition. So what you have to do is, first you have to understand that, and then you have to connect the dots through your logical reasoning, and finally, means with the logical analysis and knowledge, you have to understand that the pure inner self, the Atma, should be separated from the attributes of the body and the mind. This is what the example is used. So the rice grain, just like you have to employ a process to uncover the rice grain, you have to employ a process, a knowledge seeking process with logic and understanding that Atma is different from the body and the mind. So this is the whole process called Jnana Yoga. But mind you, Shankaracharya already said something. This knowledge is the only means to know the self. But the problem is what? For the knowledge to work, you should have a pure mind and a stable mind. Otherwise, you will not be able to detach yourself and give the experience of real self. So it is impossible. So this verse is talking about the Jnana Yoga. And from verse 16 to 30, he is going to focus on this knowledge part. How can I gain the knowledge about the self? And if you really think about Atma Bodha, the literal meaning of the Atma Bodha itself is the knowledge about yourself. So these verses, that is from verse 16 to 30, is going to cover about that topic, the pure knowledge about the self. So let's understand this verse a little bit more. So through the discriminative self-analysis and logical thinking, one should separate the pure Atma within, right? Separate from what? From all the Panchakoshas, all the Shariratraya, and just like one separate the rice from the husk and bran and so on. Because that which covers the rice, when you separate it, you will get the pure rice which can be consumed. So this is what is called Athyasa. Athyasa, we already talked about that. Athyasa means the superimposition. The superimposition of the non, means the body and mind, on the Atma is what is superimposition. And the superimposition will continue. Meaning, I will take myself as the body. I will take myself as the mind. I will take myself as the intellect, until the real nature of myself is known. Because up until now, my belief is that I am angry, not I have anger in me. That's a difference. That's the difference. So the diagnosis is given from verse 6 to 15. Why it happens? Because he said, Shariratraya, Panchakosha, all that is thing. And the solution is the Atma Jnanam, which is the knowledge of the self. And that is the central theme of the Atma Bodha. And that is what is covered in verse 16 to 30. The basic point is that you have to use the scripture to see yourself. That is what the goal is. And that is what we are going to see that. And through the self analysis, you have to understand the real self. So the example is perfectly beautiful, because how do you, when you take the rice, right? First, the whole understanding or the removal of this Athyasa, 3 steps are given in our scriptures. One is called Shravanam, and the second one is called Mananam, and the third step is called Nidhityasanam. The Shravanam is what? Listening. Listening to the fact, listening to the words of the master, or study of the scriptures under a qualified master for a sufficient period of time. This is what Shravanam means. You have to study the scripture with faith. That is what is Shravanam. Mananam means what? Whatever you studied or whatever you listened, you have to contemplate and connect the dots. Once you connect the dots, this understanding will be clear. And once you understand that, you try to internalize it. You try to see that actually in yourself. So the grain, right? How to remove these husk from the rice? There is a 3 step. First, what you do, you will pound the actual rice. So to separate the husk representation, that represents the Shravanam. And then what you do, the husk and rice, means rice grain mixture, is separated by what you call, like you lift it and you just put that down. That is the second step. And the third step, that symbolically represents the mananam. And the third step represents what? You have to carefully pound you have to remove that bran that covers the rice without damaging the rice grain. So this is the most complicated part, and that is represented by Nididhyasana. That is why this example again appears to be brilliant. So once again, let's go back and recap the two verses, three verses, right? So we said that in the previous verse, we said that means what exactly is the physical body is explained, what exactly the subtle body is explained, what exactly is the causal body is explained. And Shankaracharya said that you are neither physical body, nor the subtle body, or nor the causal body. And why you don't feel that way, because that is not what my practical experience is. And that is answered in the next verse. He said it is due to Athyasa. So just remember that similes. If you remember that simile, it is brilliant. You will not forget it. When a crystal is placed near a blue cloth, the crystal, the blueness is attributed to the crystal. Just like that, when the Atma is associated with the physical body and the subtle bodies and the Panchakoshas, their attributes seems to be superimposed with Atma. So if that is the case, if I'm not seeing myself properly, what are the next steps? I have to employ a logical analysis and self-learning, and this is done through Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. Just like you remove the husk from the rice, like that, you have to do this process. That's what is explained here. Any questions? Okay. Then, yeah, somebody.
Rajesh ji, yes, please forgive me my understanding, but in practical life, I mean, like so far we have experiences our sense through everything through our senses. So when it comes to the part when that like we that mind, I mean, sorry, Atma is different from your body, and then Atma is everything actually. So how do we get into the practice of that thing? Because mind and manana both are going in a different direction. One is saying yes, this is true, but the other was saying no, physical body is still something which has to, I mean, like be in the consideration.
Yeah, it's a beautiful question, right? Yep, it's a beautiful question. And if I understand correctly, your question is that your practical experience is different from what you're hearing from the scripture,
yep,
right?
That's correct. Yep, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, that's exactly what the problem is. Your practical experience is different. Why? Because when you look at yourself in the current state, what you are seeing is a superimposed self. And that is why you conclude that I'm angry. The difference is, instead of saying that I have anger in me, I will say that I'm angry. That is my experiences. So this is my current experience. There is no doubt about it. And what the scriptures are advising us is to how do I shift my identity from this current state to the real self? So the practices are given for that, right? So in this verse is talking about the practice of knowledge. And then, but where do you start? Means right now, if you are a professional, you are a family man, you are a citizen, your orientation is completely external. So from here, how do I start? The first thing you have to do is A, you have to purify your mind. B, you have to make sure that your mind is stabilized. So what are the practices? First practice is Karma Yoga. Means from where we are, what we need to practice is Karma Yoga. How do I start Karma Yoga? And then what happens? We take the second practice, which is called Upasana Yoga. Upasana yoga, the mindfulness practice, all the meditative practice comes under Upasana yoga. And when you practice Upasana yoga itself, even before you go to jnana, what you see is you will see the same result. I want to show you one thing since you asked that question. So let me share. Can you see the screen now or only the videos?
Only video right now.
Okay, let me share. Okay, so let me share and show you a beautiful book. I've been talking about this book for last 2-3 classes since I was reading it. So this book is called Search Inside Yourself. This is the official training curriculum in Google. This book uses a lot of meditative practice, but it's developed based upon the psychological theory and the neurology theory of emotional intelligence. So here in this book, there is a beautiful chapter on Upasana Yoga, which is the meditation. And one of the biggest benefit they are calling out in this book is, look at the title.
Search inside yourself.
No, look at this portion I just highlighted. What is it? Can you see?
My emotions are not me.
Exactly. Like it means. So what happens? Can you read the first sentence? We eventually arrive a very important insight, right? We are using means we are not our emotions. And what this book is telling is that we usually take our emotions as ourselves. But what happens? You are not the emotions. The emotions are in you. That is the whole point, even in the modern positive psychology, or even the neural research is giving us. But definitely that is not our experience. So in this book, which is the highly practical curriculum, this is a must-read book for almost all of us. What I'm saying is that even this book, what they're claiming is when you practice meditation a lot, the greatest benefit you are getting is the self-awareness. And in that self-awareness, you will understand one great truth. The great truth is you are not your emotions. You are not your emotions. And just look at what I highlighted. Emotions go from being experiential. I am to experiential, right? Typically, I feel that I am angry, but from that, there is a shift. I feel anger in me. So what they are saying is that with self-awareness practice, which is a mindfulness meditative practice, the greatest gain is your self-awareness. And the benefit of the self-awareness is you will be able to separate yourself from the emotions, which are usually superimposed on you. And when you are superimposed on your emotion, see, I am angry or I am sad is totally different from I feel sad. That's what the future state they are driving. Isn't it interesting?
Absolutely.
Let me ask you, what is the difference between what we see 1200 years Atma Bodha and a 2018 curriculum, even 2020 curriculum in Google?
Very similar. The takeaways are the same.
Exactly the same, right? The takeaways are exactly the same. So my request to all of you is, please read this book from cover to cover. You will see a lot of things from Bhagavad Gita, a lot of means there is a meditative book we have, which is called Tripura Rahasya. Most of the meditation technique in this book comes from that textbook. And a lot of ideas of Gita, Patanjali Yoga Sutra, and all these books.
So, Raja, I had a question.
Yep.
So, when the Daniel Goleman and the author of Search Inside Yourself, they wrote this book, I think their intention was more towards self-improvement.
Correct.
And making a better person out of you.
Correct.
How do we go from that state of becoming a better person through Upasana yoga and meditation to
Yeah.
realizing that we are much more than just the
I think
body.
that's a wonderful question, Arnavji, right? So, as I think I explained this in one of the Bhagavad Gita class also. You see Bhagavad Gita for management. Bhagavad Gita is used as a research topic in Harvard or other schools. But when we say Bhagavad Gita, what exactly they are doing the research? The first portion of the Bhagavad Gita or the first portion of the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. When you take Bhagavad Gita has a roadmap. The destination of that roadmap is the self-realization. Bhagavad Gita want you to realize that you are Atma, you are self, everything. But in that path, Bhagavad Gita has a prerequisite. What is that prerequisite? You have to have a stable mind and you have to have a pure mind. And whatever practice they can consolidate for that is called as yoga. And in the corporate world, in the management world, their interest is only that. So their interest is develop your mind into an extraordinary condition so that you can pursue the corporate goals.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Yes.
Bhagavad Gita also tells, right, for you to pursue a higher goal, the prerequisite is an extraordinary mind. So the first portion of the Bhagavad Gita, even not first portion, 80% of the Gita is dedicated in developing that extraordinary mind. Once you have that extraordinary mind, it is up to you what exactly you are going to use that. Some people use that to climb the corporate ladder. There is nothing wrong in that. And some people use that for seeking the spiritual goal. So from at this juncture, like there is a difference in the corporate emotional intelligence and what we are teaching. Up here, there is a commonality. So to answer your question, once you gain this emotional intelligence, once you gain this purity of the mind, the next step is naturally study of the scripture, contemplation of the scripture, and finally, nidithyasanam, internalization of the scripture. That's what the next step. And you will not see any reference to that part in search inside yourself, emotional intelligence more than IQ, emotional intelligence over brain, destructive emotions. Any of these self-help book will not have any reference of that part. So I just wanted to make it very clear where exactly they are aligned with us and where exactly they are silent. And what is our primary goal and what is their primary goal. A corporate like Google, what is their primary goal? Improve their bottom line. How can they improve the bottom line? When the employees are more efficient, more active, more productive. And for that, the key prerequisite is an extraordinary mind. And for us, we want everybody to be spiritually realized. What exactly is the prerequisite? Again, an extraordinary, pure, controlled mind. So up to that, it is common. So even for an agnostic, even for a person who has no spiritual interest, Bhagavad Gita has some value. Vedanta has some value.
I was exactly going to say that. Like, even if you're not seeking God, there is still a lot in this for you.
Of course, the Karma Yoga, it is applicable to all. The Upasana Yoga, it is needed for all. And what these modern writers have done is, for example, Herbert Benson, who won the Nobel Prize for introducing this relaxation response. What he did was he took the transcendental meditation taught by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and he did neutralized all the Vedic terminologies. That's it. So they pull content from, means you can go Google it, like you will see a lot of articles. And later they found that some of these, instead of a mantra Om, they put some gibberish words. And later they found that these gibberish words are not working as the mantras. So they introduced back the mantras in some case, but they try to keep it as neutral as possible, which I understand. When you do that in a public place, like a work or a corporate hospital, you may have to neutralize it. I totally understand that. I'm not criticizing that part, but I just wanted to say that this is the route. The end destination is totally different, but the prerequisite is 100% aligned.
Rajji, who is the person you just mentioned who took Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and neutralized it?
Herbert Benson. Herbert Benson. He is the one who came up with the brilliant discovery for relaxation response.
Thank you.
So you can Google it,
Yeah.
then you will get it. And once you study it, let me just talk to me. I will tell you exactly the Mandukya Karika, which talks about this relaxation response.
Yeah, that's a book. The relaxation response.
Yeah, it's a very bestseller book.
Mhm.
It's very, 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 very popular. It revolutionized the whole psychological field. So that is what it is. Okay. So let's
Rajesh ji, I have a question here.
please.
This is a very basic question. See,
Sure.
when a human is being born, when the Atma comes to this world, it is being imbibed with a lot of qualities or gunas or vasanas. On what basis are these vasanas getting imposed?
Okay, so first of all, there is a small correction. The Atma won't come to the world. Atma is static and stable. Atma is stationary. There is no birth or death for Atma. What comes to this world as part of rebirth or transmigration, what we call it as subtle body or soul. So the subtle body and the soul has the vasanas. So this vasanas or the impressions are nothing but it is formulated because of my actions. Every action I do, every karma I do, the definition of the karma is whatever I do with a karana. So whatever I do with a karana is called karma. And whenever I do a karma, what happens? This karma will leave a small impression in my mind. For example, if I start smoking or start drinking coffee at 5 o'clock every day, after 20 days, what is going to happen? Do I need to look at the watch? Initially, it is a small impression. It's like formation of a channel. It means the rain comes, initially the water will flow in one way. The next day comes, it starts flowing. If it continues for a period of time, what is going to happen is a strong channel is formed. Like that, strong impressions are formed. And what happens? This will carry forward to next life because the next life is determined by the prarabdha, and that prarabdha is determined from a pool of sanchita karma. So I would suggest you just to listen to the talk actually we had a long 3-week discussion on the theory of karma. So that will give a detailed answer of this. And actually it is coming even here. We will discuss that. But to answer in a summary way, in a very short way, the impressions are due to the actions, karmas I do. It creates impression. And this impression in turn creates the next birth. So this is the cycle of birth and death.
Rajesh ji, I have a question here again.
Sure.
See, when we say that the Atma is static,
Yep.
and the soul is the one the soul is the one that is coming to this, it's getting into the cycle of birth and rebirth cycle.
Right.
So in this essence, what I can understand, or correct me if I'm wrong, what I can understand is the Atma, it belongs to the same place. For example, let's say we have come from a certain Devata. So the Atma or the Sukshma Sharira still resides within that deity or the Upasana Murti.
Again, the Atma is not the subtle body. The Atma is different from the subtle body. The Atma, the definition is, it is the consciousness. And the nature of that Atma is absolute happiness. So means this is a big topic. So we can take offline. We can talk, you can call me offline, we can discuss this. But the point is, so every jiva or the individual has 3 major components. I'll post a video. We did a whole class on this particular topic. So I'll post that in the link, the body, physical body, subtle body, Atma. So the Atma definition is that by which you are aware of your emotions, thoughts, and feelings. that by which you are aware of your mental activity. And when you talk about the devatas, even that devata is sustained by the same Atma sustaining you. I know that it is a short answer. It is not a long. And Atma means there are 6 or 7 qualities of the Atma. Atma means there is no birth for Atma. There is no change for Atma. There is no decay for Atma. And there is no movement of Atma. The Atma is all pervading. Atma do not have any attributes. When we talk about the Devatas are manifested from the Atma. The Atma is the essence of everything.
So here when we refer to the Atma, are we talking about the universal consciousness?
Absolutely. That is the Atma. Even that word is misleading, but Atma means the absolute reality. A reality that is not subjected to change. A reality that is not subjected to negation. It is the absolute reality, because means we spent a lot of time on this earlier, but the point is the Atma is not dependent upon anything for its existence, but everything else is dependent upon Atma for its existence. So absolutely, it is the universal consciousness, or it is the absolute reality. And in scriptures, we call it as Paramatma or Brahman or absolute reality.
When we say that, when we have that Paramatma, and we have another concept also called as the Jivatma. So in this essence, we refer the subtle or the soul that comes from the real consciousness. We call it as the next level or the next category. Is that right?
Jivatma is different from Paramatma. Jivatma means when you have this body and the mind, what happens? It is capable of reflecting that Supreme Atma. The classic example given by the scripture is, if you have a bucket of water, the sun that is shining upwards can get reflected in that water. So the body mind combination is capable of reflecting the Supreme Atma, and the reflection of that Atma in your body and mind is called Jivatma. Essentially, what is Jivatma? It is nothing but the Paramatma. Because if the Paramatma is not there, there is no existence.
Jivatma. Yeah.
So that is why we call it as Tattvam Asi, right? Thou or that. Okay, so actually this idea is going to be elaborated in the next few verses, so we can see that. But these are fundamental questions, so it doesn't matter, right? We are explaining this 15 times or 20 times, so we need to ask these questions. So please feel free to ask these questions anytime.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Okay. So Anu, could you chant the 17th verse?
Sada sarvagato pyatma na sarvatra vabhasate buddha veva vabhaseta swacheshu pratibimbavat.
So this verse itself answers that question. So Sada Sarvagata Atma. Sarvagadopi Atma. So the Atma is all pervasive. It is everywhere it pervades. There is nothing where the Atma is not there. So even though the Atma is all pervasive, it encompasses every being. Even if it is a rock, the existence of that rock comes from the Atma. So remember, we talked about the Para Prakriti and the Para Prakriti. From the Apara Prakriti, the 5 physical elements has born. The combination, remember last week we talked about the Panchikaranam. The combination of that is the physical body everywhere. And then the subtle body came in. But what Shankaracharya telling here is, even though the Atma is everywhere, the problem is what? It doesn't appear everywhere. Even though the Atma is, even though the sun is there, right? Only when there is a bucket and a water, the sun reflection of the sun happens. If there is only a bucket without a water, the reflection will not happen. In other words, every object cannot reflect Atma. The Atma can be reflected only by the mind. So that is what the point is. The physical body, subtle body combination, only can reflect Atma. So that is the example he has given here. So he tells only in the mind, even though the Atma pervades everywhere, not all objects are capable of reflecting Atma. And only human mind, or any mind to that matter, can reflect Atma. It can shine. How? Shankaracharya tells, when you look at a wall or when you take a book, you won't see your reflection. Even though you exist, that other object is not capable of reflecting your, means showing your reflection. You need a mirror to see your reflection. Just like that, even though the Atma is everywhere, only the mind can reflect the Atma. Just like a mirror is reflecting my image, just like that, only mind and intellect, that inner instrument, can reflect Atma. So that is why, even though the physical body is there, when the subtle body or the soul moves away from the human body, what happens? There is no life. Even though the consciousness is everywhere, nothing happened to the consciousness. When somebody goes from a state of living to death, what happens is, the difference is the subtle body has gone. And when the subtle body is not there, the body, the physical body, will not be alive. So that's very important. The subtle body is that component which makes an entity living. The essence of life is Atma, but subtle body can reflect Atma. So this is another beautiful concept. Beautiful topic with a brilliant example. Just like a mirror reflects the image. So the Atman does not shine everywhere. It means in everything, although it is all pervading. It manifests only in the inner equipment, the intellect and the mind. Just like the reflection can be of an image of a person can seen only in a clean image. So just like the same example, there's a reflection of the sun. Even though the sun is everywhere, the grass is not reflecting the sun. If the bucket is alone, like it won't reflect the Atma. So this is the three topic, because this inquiry is the verses 16 to 30. We will see a lot of brilliant example. Let me quickly summarize in the last 3 minutes. So we have started by quickly summarizing the physical body, the subtle body, and the Karma Sharira. And the subtle body is called soul, as we explained earlier. And finally, we said, even though I have physical body, subtle body, and Karma Sharira, I am different from all this. I am Atma, which is different. But that is not what my experience, as Sanjay ji asked. It is different. So how do I shift that difference? The difference happens because of Adhyasa. Just remember this keyword. This is a keyword we need to learn to study Upanishads. So Adhyasa, because of this Adhyasa, actually what happens? The superimposition happens. Even though I am not the body, the attribute of the body is superimposed on me. Just like the search inside yourself said, I feel that I'm angry, even though the fact is that I feel anger rather than I am angry. So that's the difference that happens because of the superposition. And how do I do that? Through when the mind is pure and stable, you can take a self-inquiry, and that self-inquiry has 3 steps: Shravanam, Mananam, and Nidithyasanam. It is just like removing the husk from the rice and getting the consumable rice. So it's a process like that. And finally, the next point is why the subtle body and the physical bodies are important. Without the physical body and subtle body, the Atma cannot be experienced, or the Atma cannot be expressed. And that point is what is mentioned in the final verse. Finally, we are saying that it is like a mirror. A mirror can reflect your image. Even though you are there, a book or a tree or a plant cannot reflect your image. Like that, subtle body is important. So we covered up to verse 17, and please review and post any questions in the group. I think we can stop here. Let me play the final chanting. Anu, could you chant the Purnamada? Poonaji is not there.
ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ
Once again, great chanting, because live chanting makes a difference.
By the way, I have shared that book that you mentioned in our books library, The Search Inside Yourself.
My God, it took you. Thank you. It's a must-read book for all of us. So if you can read that, that will be great.
Hello,
Okay.
this is Radha. I know I've never been. I'm Bhuna's friend. I am pretty sure Bhuna told you about me. I've been coming to the class for the last couple of weeks.
Thank you.
So I already bought the book. I'm dying to read it.
Okay, nice. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we will see next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh ji. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Rajesh.